gap, leaving the space open for the spirit to flow in rather than filling the space with meaningless conversation or activity. Refusing to participate in the dream, refusing to say your lines in the play of human existence. Refusing to listen to the voice in your head that tells you what things are and how things ought to be. And it isn't so much that you have resistance to those things. It isn't so much that you have opposition to those things. In fact, no opposition whatsoever. But it is that you are making a new choice to leave the gap open. You're making a new choice. Instead of those things, something else. Instead of those things, the divine, and allowing that to be as uncomfortable as it needs to be, as confronting, as ostracizing perhaps as it needs to be. And you will be ostracized. The world will judge against you. The world will decide against you when you refuse to play your part. And if you want to get out of the matrix, that's exactly what you must do. Not by refusing to play your part per se, but by adopting a new part, a part that doesn't reference your identity or your participation within the matrix as expected, according to the usual lines of birth to death. This place, this world, this matrix was made, not created, made for you in order that you can experience the effects of your thinking in symbolic form outside of yourself, in a way that you can understand the nature of life as you perceive it, invent a language, make up rules, social structures, etc., just so that you can begin to question the nature of your reality. So you can begin to look at the meaning of life. What is it? Where is it? How is it? Does it exist? Is there a meaning of life? It doesn't have a purpose other than that, even though I can choose to believe that it does. But any purpose other than pursuing my highest line of inquiry with regards to the situation I seem to find myself in makes no sense. Because if I don't know the meaning of life, if I don't know really why I'm here and I'm just going along with the crowd, then I've got no way to know whether the waypoint that I set for myself or the ideas and goals that I set for myself have any merit or value. When I begin to realise, perhaps not very clearly at first, but when I begin to realise that everything here ends in death, everything here has a beginning and an ending, it presents an opportunity to consider the worth of what I put my energy into and why I would want to put my energy into anything here. And it's not that I won't. Obviously, I'm putting my energy into this right now, making this video and looking out this window. through personal inquiry, through personal exploration of higher paradigms of thought, I'm able to come into contact with ideas that don't reflect the nature of temporal life, the nature of physical life. And I begin to come into contact with ideas that reflect a more celestial, more spiritual reference for life. Perhaps that life is eternal, that life is a singular frame of self. And I begin to fathom how it is that those ideas have a place in my experience of humanity, how it is that those ideas can benefit me. And if I'm pushed by the world, if I'm really struggling to make sense of my reality here, then those ideas are naturally going to become more valuable to me. If I'm doing very well in the world, then those ideas will seem like a superficial accompaniment for a conversation, perhaps, that friends might have at a restaurant. Look what I know. Look what I can tell you. Look what I've studied. Look what I've learned. But beyond the conversation value of spiritual concepts and principles, the applicable value of the principles that those concepts embody has the power to change the nature of the experience of your reality, not out there in the world, not in the form, but in your perception of the form, in your understanding of the form. And so bring about, through constant application, through disciplined application, a shift in consciousness, going from physical person mind, let's say, ego mind, to illuminated mind or God-man mind. I like that term, God-man. I'm borrowing that from Adidas Samaranch. I think he was the one that coined that phrase, from Homo sapien to Homo illumina, man to God-man. Seen rightly, and in a certain sense, I guess, backed up by the experiences along the way, as you begin to awaken from the dream of being just an ordinary human to realizing that you are something quite celestial. Along the way, you begin to affect the nature of everyone and everything around you just simply by being here. You may not see it as you would like to see it, but you'll get glimpses of it. Sometimes you'll get direct experience of it. What that does in the world, what that does in the matrix, is something akin to having a virus in a computer. It's really quite strange when you start to see the broad picture. Eventually, the glitches in the matrix begin to show, as we're seeing now with the idea of the Mandela effect and the chaotic nature of the conscious mind, the temporal mind, scrambling to achieve goals and ambitions that have no point and no purpose. World domination, global domination, global control. And I say have no purpose, even though the idea that there is no purpose to it may be unrecognised in those who participate. But no purpose because there is no world, actually. What you're trying to control doesn't exist. And the attempt to try and control it keeps you more tethered to the illusion, more tethered to the dream of it existing, and perpetuates the cycles of your incarnations here again and again and again and again. What you validate, you keep. Which is why you have to have an experience. You have to have an experience because things can't be taken away from you without free will. The illusion of free will, the idea that things could look another way, that's one thing. But the idea that you have to consciously choose for your awakening, that's another. And it's not that your awakening won't happen at some point in time, because at some point in time, this all goes like Dorothy and Toto going to Kansas. Kansas is about to go bye-bye. It's another reference from the Matrix movie. But trust me, you don't want to be around when that happens. Or you don't want to be uneducated when that happens. You'll definitely want to be operating from a place of pure faith by then. The awakening, or the counter dream, the alternative dream to the dream of death, was instigated and put into action through the resurrection just over 2,000 years ago, changing the nature of the conscious perception of one's sense of self from being dualistic to singular through an action of forgiveness. Prior to the idea of forgiveness as taught by Jesus, the status quo for self-perception in the maintenance of the identity was focused mostly around the eye for an eye, believing that there's somebody else out there doing something to me here, and I have to get revenge on that person, which sets up a cause and effect relationship that basically perpetuates itself. Whereas through forgiveness, it puts a full stop there. I think somebody did something to me, but I'm going to accept atonement for myself instead and realize that I am the master of my destiny. No one's doing anything to me, and the residue of that old dream of victimhood is something that will clean up quite quickly in my own association. The more I practice forgiveness and the deeper I delve into it, as far as allowing myself to feel the prayerful nature of asking for forgiveness and offering forgiveness. Everything is just energy, and what you use it for perpetuates the result. Use it to extend the light and love and certainty of your heart and mind as part of the process of awakening, which is all it can be used for, or use it to try and strengthen your resolve to deny the nature of love in your life as being an all-pervading, altruistic, unconditional energy, and you'll get the results accordingly for that as well. But as more and more awaken, which can't be stopped, it doesn't matter how many rules, laws, how many people they try to put in prison. I mean, China's even trying to rewrite the Bible to make Jesus look like a bad guy. They don't know what they're doing. They're still trying to control their people, still trying to control the narrative. But it's pointless. It's absolutely pointless. The fix is in. The resurrection has happened. The more you learn to participate with it, the more you learn to collaborate with each other and with the resurrection itself as an action of principle application in your life, the less you'll be concerned about needing to control things, and the more love you'll find just flows back into your awareness. As the awakening continues, as more and more minds awaken, and as the virus, let's say, in the Matrix continues to spread, the antivirus, we should call it the antivirus, because the matrix itself represents the original virus. The awakening represents the healing of that virus. So as our antivirus continues to spread, the capacity to be able to hold on to the determination to perpetuate the eye for an eye mentality is going to become less and less reasonable and find less and less grounds to be founded upon, until finally, through taking total responsibility for one's own experience here, everybody begins to learn that collaboration with each other is in their own best interests as well as the best interests of the greater good. Then you'll have some kind of global sense of one government or one idea of purpose, let's say. When that will be, how long that will take, I don't know. I'm here now in the year 2024, having stepped out of time and seen the matrix for what it is in the year 1997, and then having several follow-up out-of-time experiences after that, with an idea only of the certainty of the fact that the resurrection is in play, not really, other than on a personal level, not really having a global sense, however, of how long that will take for its fulfillment. Although, if I look scientifically at the idea of 130 billion years since the Big Bang, and I'm just using that as an idea, I'm not saying there ever was a Big Bang, because everything is ideas, everything is reflected in ideas. It's how we make sense of our world. Then, if you look at the resurrection as the midpoint, as the full extension, the full expansion of the universal experience being fulfilled, then the healing or the resurrection, the universe coming back in on itself again, can take just as long. Because of the speed of light, however, at this stage we're still seeing galaxies and stars moving away from each other at an exponential rate. But that will slow down and then it will begin to contract again, as an idea in mind of coming back to a place of unity consciousness. And you'll notice on the physical play out through the symbols of the world and the universe that on a personal sense and a global sense, you'll be able to begin to pick up the telltale signs of that happening in your own personal experience and on a global sense. It's going to get somewhat chaotic, more chaotic as the idea of potential, or what the idea of separation might look like, is played out as we run out of potential. The potential in time and space for things to look any way at all is limited by the nature of time and space itself. And as humanity has been attempting to adjust to the meaninglessness of the experience and to the emptiness of the experience through actuating and activating potential in politics, in personal life, in any kind of way, to be able to maintain an idea of normality or sense or sanity within this place, then as that potential begins to run out, the nature of panic and anxiety and everything else like that is going to go through the roof, which is what we're seeing now across the spectrum with the nature of mental health around the world. 1 in 3 people has a mental health problem. I would be more honest than that and say everybody does, but it's kind of intrinsic with the experience. But a mental health problem in as much as that it affects the way that you're able to manage your daily life, whether you're circumscribed by fear and anxiety, or whether it goes deeper than that into depression and feeling suicidal, etc., etc. And whatever you specialize in, you'll be able to perpetuate it. So if you're a warmonger, you'll be able to specialize in perpetuating more war until you wipe yourself out. And what you do to others does indeed come back to you in this life or the next life. And which is why, and I didn't want to get into this this aspect of it. I think it's going to be a shock enough for most people to hear this, but which is why people are born back into this life. One of the reasons people are born back into this life with disabilities and mental retardations and things like that. It's because of the nature of cause and effect that affects not only the individual, but the collective consciousness that reflects the individual's reality. So when you end up in the bardo in the next life and you're sent off to try it again, you take on board the collective conscious of your own association. Again, there's nothing projected out. The projecting doesn't start until you find yourself experiencing here in the world at an age of about probably, I don't know, I'm just going to guess at about 7 or 8 years old. You start projecting blame onto other children, etc., etc. But you bring your whole world with you when you come, and you take it with you when you go. And that can have profound impact on the ability to maintain a physical form. So if I look at the idea of the Illuminati and people that will just walk all over everybody to get what they want, like the greatest example of greed, let's say, or control or whatever, I mean, there's a flip side to that. Everything has a flip side, because like anything with energy, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the reaction takes place within the framework of the physical experience in the lifetime that you're living in. It's accumulative, and you don't get out of this until you've transformed the nature of your mind so that it begins to reflect the nature of the true flow, or the nature of the original flow of the universal energetic, which is the extension of light or love or peace, or whatever you want to call it that way. So where all things are equal. There's not one who has more or less, or one who is better off or worse off, and that. And I really feel sorry for those people, really. I mean, but the same can be said for those on the other end of the scale who are the do-gooders, you know, which is why, who was it said, no good deed goes unpunished. Tip of my tongue. Spinoza? No, maybe not. But anyway, no good deed goes unpunished. It's the same thing. I'm attempting to fabricate a nature, a offering, let's say, or a posturing in the world based on my reaction to it. I'm attempting to postulate some kind of sense of self as a person who does good based on my reaction to the world that I see as a place where intrinsically evil people can do whatever they want, etc., etc., etc. Failing to realize, of course, that all of those things are nothing more than ideas in my own mind that I'm giving power to by trying to be good, by trying to do good. And I'm not saying don't do good things. I'm just saying heal whatever it is that you see about the world you don't like in your mind, and then you'll know what there is to be done about anything outside, if that's the case. It wasn't Spinoza. I was only talking about it the other day. That's curious. Anyway. So, escaping the matrix, awakening, whatever, it's much better if you participate with it. If you're prepared to sit back and be an armchair witness, good luck with that. because it's like a train shunting from the station. There's a certain jolt to all the carriages, and the collective jolt of all those carriages coming to an abrupt end at the finish as a psychological shock. It's going to be harsh living in those end times. And people often say these are the end times, but they're not. There are end times in this world, in the next world, in the next world, in the next world. And it behooves you, it's a good word, isn't it? Behooves. It behooves you to be about your own best interests in this world by firstly realizing you don't know what they are, and taking that internal step, making that internal inquiry. I could tell you to go out and buy a copy of A Course in Miracles and you could read it, or the Bible, you could read it, and the Gitas, you could read them, what's the Buddhist one? The Bodhisattva? No, Bodhisattva's a thing. I forget the Book of the Dead, perhaps, things like that. You can read books along those lines and get a very, very good idea of what it is that I'm talking about, other people talk about. But it has to be beyond talk. It has to be beyond reading and beyond conceptual understanding. You have to have your own experience. You have to have those shifts in consciousness that allow you to see the nature of change occurring in your life. That doesn't happen as a concept, because salvation or awakening is beyond concepts. It's an actual thing. It's actually occurring, whether you believe it or not. Anyway, that feels pretty good. Not sure if that's what I wanted to make this video about on this rainy afternoon, but thanks to everyone that came to the Zoom meeting this morning. That was great. Very intimate little crowd. And thank you again to everyone who's participating in giving of their financial wealth to the production of these little books, which, man, we got to be like less than a week away, I think, Tyna, if that's right. I'm leaving it in the hands of you and Annie now. Annie, anyone who doesn't know Annie is my long, dear friend, Course in Miracles friend, who actually kicked my ass way, way back and got me to go and sit with my teacher, Ted. That's another story. Thank you. I mean, whatever, the more money we get, the more, and I'm not asking for money. I mean, if you feel in your heart you want to give to help others, then so be it. That's what we're about here. But the more money we get, the more books we can print. So I think we're probably going to start with about 3,000. Probably send half of those to the United States, some here in Australia, some hopefully to England and Tobago. We're sending some to Tobago, in the Caribbean, the Bahamas, something. I'm going to definitely have to look that up. Might be time for a little holiday, I think. It sounds kind of like the place where salvation is needed. I better go attend to it. All right, I love you guys, and thank you. Thank you again. And I do appreciate I know some of you guys say to me, oh man, I'm so sorry, I got another question, and like on Facebook and whatever. It's like, I don't mind. Trust me, I don't mind. It's like whatever comes for the greater good is for the greater good, and that's where I'm at with things. All right, that's all I'm here for. So, all right, peace.